Pick it up yourself." The words cut through the bank lobby like glass shattering on marble. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The soft hum of air conditioning suddenly felt loud. Pens froze mid-signature. A woman near the door stopped scrolling on her phone. Every head slowly turned toward the counter. The ID card lay on the floor, face up, its edges catching the glow of the chandelier above. It rested just inches from the polished black shoes of the bank teller, shoes so shiny they reflected the overhead lights. Behind the counter stood a man in a perfectly pressed gray suit. His arms were crossed tight against his chest, jaw clenched, irritation written plainly across his face. This was not his idea of a good morning. Across from him stood a black woman, calm and still, dressed in a tailored navy coat, spoke of quiet authority. Her back was straight. Her hands rested loosely at her sides. Her face revealed nothing. No anger, no embarrassment, no fear. Only control. Her name was Dr. Alana Brooks. To everyone else in the lobby, she looked ordinary. Just another customer who didn't belong in this branch. Someone who had probably misunderstood where she was, or who she thought she was. A woman who, in their minds, had walked into the wrong building at the wrong time. No one in that room knew the truth. They didn't know that Dr. Brooks was the CEO of one of the fastest-growing fintech companies in the country. They didn't know she was minutes away from finalizing a $5.9 billion merger that would reshape the banking industry. And they certainly didn't know that this very branch, this counter, this teller, was part of that deal. Dr. Brooks slowly looked down at the ID on the floor. Then she looked back up at the teller. The silence stretched. Uncomfortable. Heavy. The teller didn't bend. Didn't apologize. Didn't move. He waited. What he didn't realize, what no one in that lobby realized, was that time was running out. Because in exactly 7 minutes, a single decision would be made. And when it was, this bank's 112-year legacy would begin to collapse. All because of one sentence and one ID card left on the floor. Dr. Brooks had arrived early that morning for a private meeting. She believed in punctuality. More than that, she believed in preparation. Big decisions deserved space, silence, and clarity, and today's decision was one of the biggest of her career. She was finalizing paperwork connected to a $5.9 billion cross-border merger between her fintech firm and a legacy banking institution. This bank, a deal months in the making, endless negotiations, late-night calls across time zones, lawyers, analysts, regulators, all aligned, all waiting on one final confirmation. Dr. Brooks stepped into the branch just after opening hours. The lobby gleamed with marble floors and gold-trimmed columns, designed to project wealth and authority. It smelled faintly of polished wood and expensive cologne. She approached the counter calmly and handed over her ID. The teller glanced at it once, then twice. Something shifted. The polite customer service smile on his face faded, replaced by a tight, skeptical look. His eyes flicked from the ID back to her face, lingering a second too long. "You'll need to wait," he said sharply. Without meeting her eyes, he slid the ID back across the counter. Too fast. Too careless. The card slipped from his fingers. It hit the floor with a soft but unmistakable sound. Tap. A woman near the deposit desk inhaled sharply. A man filling out a withdrawal slip paused mid-sentence. People nearby gasped, not loudly but enough. Dr. Brooks didn't react. She didn't rush. She didn't flinch. She didn't bend down. She waited. The teller didn't move. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, arms folding across his chest. His voice rose just enough to carry across the lobby. "Customers like you should be more careful with important documents." The words hung in the air. Heavy, deliberate, unnecessary. Silence followed. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that presses against your ears, the kind that makes everyone aware that something has gone wrong. Dr. Brooks slowly looked down at the ID on the floor. Then she looked back up at the teller. Her voice was calm, controlled, almost gentle. "I believe you dropped it," she said evenly. The teller scoffed, shaking his head as if she had said something ridiculous. "If it's yours," he replied, "you can pick it up." A few people looked away, suddenly very interested in their paperwork. Others stared openly, uncomfortable but curious. Behind the counter, the branch manager glanced over. He saw the ID on the floor. He saw the teller's posture. He saw the woman standing quietly on the other side. Then he looked away. No correction, no apology, no intervention. That silence, more than the insult itself, would cost them everything. Dr. Brooks bent down slowly and picked up the ID herself. She wiped a speck of dust from its edge and placed it back on the counter with care, aligning it perfectly. Then she straightened. "I'm here for a scheduled meeting," she said. "My name is Dr. Alana Brooks." The teller let out a short laugh. Not amused, dismissive. "Sure," he said. "Have a seat. Someone will call you." He gestured vaguely toward a row of chairs along the wall. Dr. Brooks checked her watch. 6 minutes. She didn't sit. "I'm meeting with your executive board," she added. That earned another laugh, this one louder. "That's upstairs," the teller said. "And they don't meet walk-ins." Dr. Brooks said nothing. She simply waited. Seconds passed. Then the glass doors at the front of the bank opened. 3 people walked in together, 2 men and 1 woman, all in tailored executive suits. Their conversation stopped the moment they saw her. One of the men froze. "Dr. Brooks," he said, eyes widening. "We've been trying to reach you." The meeting was about to start. The entire lobby shifted. The teller's face drained of color. The branch manager straightened so fast he nearly knocked over his chair. The executive hurried forward, extending his hand. "It's an honor to finally meet you in person," he said. "We were worried something had happened." Dr. Brooks shook his hand calmly. "Nothing happened," she said. Then she glanced back at the counter. "Not yet." The executive followed her gaze. His eyes landed on the teller, on the ID, on the tension in the room. His expression hardened. "Is there a problem here?" he asked. Dr. Brooks didn't raise her voice, didn't accuse, didn't explain. She said one sentence. "I was deciding whether this institution understands respect." The silence this time was different. It wasn't awkward. It was afraid. Because everyone in that lobby, everyone now understood exactly who she was. And the cost of what had just happened was about to become very, very clear. Dr. Alana Brooks didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. She didn't explain herself. She simply bent down, retrieved her ID from the floor, and placed it carefully back on the counter, aligning it neatly, as if order itself mattered. The quiet confidence in that small gesture unsettled more people in the lobby than shouting ever could. Then she looked up, and she said 6 words. "I'm here for the merger meeting." The teller laughed. Not loudly, not nervously. It was a short, dismissive laugh, the kind that comes from certainty, from someone who believes they already know how this story ends. "With who?" he asked, leaning back in his chair. Dr. Brooks checked her watch. 5 minutes. She met his eyes calmly. "With your executive board." The teller opened his mouth to respond. But the glass doors at the front of the bank swung open. 3 figures entered together. 2 men and 1 woman, all dressed in sharply tailored executive attire. Their polished shoes echoed against the marble floor as they stepped inside, still mid-conversation. Then one of the men stopped. Completely. His eyes locked onto Dr. Brooks. "Dr. Brooks?" he said, disbelief flickering across his face. He broke into a hurried stride, extending his hand before he even reached her. "We've been trying to reach you. We thought you might be running late." The entire lobby went silent. The teller's face drained of color. The branch manager stiffened, his posture snapping upright as recognition slowly dawned. The casual confidence he'd worn moments earlier vanished. Dr. Brooks shook the executive's hand calmly. "I arrived early," she said. "I prefer to observe." The executive nodded, relieved. "Of course. We're ready upstairs whenever you are." Then he turned. Slowly, his gaze followed Dr. Brooks' line of sight, past the counter, past the ID resting neatly on its surface, until it landed on the teller. "Is there a problem?" he asked. The question was polite, but it carried weight. The teller swallowed hard. "And no, sir. Just a misunderstanding." The executive didn't look convinced. Dr. Brooks didn't point, didn't accuse, didn't recount what had happened. She simply spoke. "I was deciding whether this institution aligns with our values." That was all. But those words landed harder than any accusation. The executive's expression changed instantly. His jaw tightened. The woman beside him exchanged a quick glance with her colleague. What values would those be? The executive asked carefully. Dr. Brooks gestured subtly around the lobby. Respect, she said. Dignity, and how people are treated before their titles are known. The silence that followed felt suffocating. A customer near the door shifted uncomfortably. Another looked down, pretending to reread a form. The executive inhaled slowly. I see, he said. He turned to the branch manager. Were you aware of this interaction? The manager hesitated, just a fraction of a second too long. There was no intent. That wasn't my question, the executive said calmly. The manager swallowed. Yes. Another silence. Dr. Brooks checked her watch again. 2 minutes. I'd like to continue the meeting, the executive said, forcing a measured tone. Dr. Brooks, please. She nodded politely. Before we do, she replied, there's something you should understand. The executive waited. This merger, she continued, isn't just about capital or expansion. It's about who we partner with and what they tolerate. The teller stared at the counter, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Dr. Brooks turned toward the staircase leading upstairs. Then she stopped and looked back one final time at the lobby. At my company, she said calmly, the smallest interactions reveal the biggest truths. No one spoke. No one moved. The lobby, once wide and grand, felt suddenly very small. And for the first time that morning, the people in that bank realized something crucial. This meeting wasn't about growth anymore. It was about survival. They moved to a private conference room upstairs. No one spoke as they passed through the glass hallway, overlooking the lobby below. The teller was quietly escorted away from the floor, his shoulders slumped, eyes fixed on the ground. The branch manager followed behind the executives, pale and sweating now, the confidence he once wore stripped away with every step. Inside the conference room, everything was ready. A long polished table stretched across the center of the room. Large screens displayed detailed charts and projections. Thick folders sat neatly at every seat, contracts flagged with colored tabs. Lawyers sat silently along one side, tablets open, pens poised. Months of preparation had led to this moment. Everything was prepared, except the trust. Dr. Brooks took her seat at the head of the table. She placed her briefcase beside her chair and rested her hands calmly on the surface. The executives waited, expecting her to open the folder, to begin reviewing figures, to discuss timelines and growth strategies. Instead, she closed the folder. She didn't even open it. The soft sound of it shutting echoed louder than expected. I've led negotiations in 12 countries, she said calmly, her voice steady and controlled. Across 5 continents, with institutions far larger than this one. No one interrupted. In every deal, she continued, there's an understanding that professionalism doesn't begin at the boardroom door. It begins the moment someone walks into your building. The branch manager swallowed hard. I expect professionalism, Dr. Brooks said, in boardrooms and in lobbies. The chairman cleared his throat and leaned forward, forcing a polite smile. Dr. Brooks, what happened downstairs was unfortunate. But I assure you, that incident does not represent who we are as an institution. Dr. Brooks nodded once. Then it shouldn't have happened. The words were simple. Final. She reached into her briefcase and removed a single document. Unlike the thick contracts spread across the table, this one was only a few pages long. She slid it across the polished surface toward the chairman. He frowned slightly and picked it up. As he read the heading, his face changed. Termination of intent. Effective immediately. For a moment, he said nothing. He read it again, slower this time, as if the words might change. This is premature, he said finally. We can address what happened. We can discipline staff. Make corrections. Dr. Brooks met his eyes. This is the correction. A quiet ripple moved through the room. One lawyer shifted in his seat. Another executive loosened his tie. The branch manager stared at the table as if hoping the wood might swallow him whole. You're canceling the merger? The chairman asked carefully. Dr. Brooks nodded. Not pausing it, she said. Not revisiting it. She folded her hands. Canceling it. The room went completely still. $5.9 billion gone? Just like that. Months of negotiations. Investor expectations. Press releases already drafted. Growth strategies mapped years into the future. Erased in a single decision. You're making this decision based on one interaction? The chairman asked quietly. Dr. Brooks shook her head. No, she replied. I'm making it based on what that interaction revealed. She glanced briefly at the branch manager. No one corrected it, she said. No one intervened. And no one took responsibility until the cost became visible. She leaned back slightly. If this is how power is exercised when no one important is watching, she continued, then this is not a partner I can trust. The chairman closed his eyes for a brief moment. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. No raised voices, no dramatic exits, just the quiet understanding that something historic had just ended. Dr. Brooks stood. I appreciate the time you invested, she said politely. But my company will move forward with an institution that aligns with our values at every level. She gathered her things and turned toward the door. No one stopped her. No one could. As she walked out, the executives remained seated, staring at the document still lying on the table. The merger wasn't lost because of market conditions. It wasn't lost because of numbers. It was lost because of a moment, small, avoidable, and completely revealing. And in that silent conference room, they finally understood the true cost of disrespect. By noon, the story had already begun to spread. It moved faster than any press release, whispered through corporate group chats, shared in hurried phone calls, hinted at in internal emails marked urgent. Employees downstairs noticed executives avoiding eye contact. Security tightened. Meetings were quietly canceled. By evening, the decision was official. The teller was fired. No farewell. No explanation to customers. His access card was deactivated before he reached the parking lot. A single sentence ended his career at that branch, violation of conduct. By the next morning, the fallout continued. The branch manager resigned, not because he was told to, but because the questions were coming. Questions he couldn't answer. Questions that all led back to one moment of silence when leadership was required and never shown. Stock analysts didn't call it unfortunate. They called it an avoidable catastrophe. Markets reacted. Confidence dipped. Investors asked what else had been ignored behind those marble walls. Then Dr. Alana Brooks released a statement. It wasn't long. It didn't mention names. It didn't explain the incident in detail. It simply said, respect is not optional. Access does not define worth. And leadership begins with how you treat people when no one is watching. The statement went viral, not because of outrage, but because of truth. Her company moved forward with a different bank, one that welcomed her before knowing her title, one that didn't need an executive badge to show basic dignity, one that understood that culture isn't written in mission statements. It's revealed in everyday actions. The new partnership was announced weeks later. It was smaller, but it was stronger. As for that branch, it closed within the year. Quietly. No ceremony. No press conference. Just locked doors and a faded sign taped to the glass. Not because of one mistake, but because of one moment that exposed everything beneath the surface. And somewhere inside that now empty lobby, where footsteps once echoed and deals once began, the memory of those words still lingered in the air. Pick it up yourself. A sentence meant to diminish. A moment meant to assert power. Instead, it erased one of the biggest deals in banking history. Because sometimes the smallest acts of disrespect carry the heaviest consequences.